Well, good morning to you. Glad you're here. So today in chapel, we're going to be having a special presentation that I will let someone else reveal in just a moment. But we're also going to hear from Dr. Bill Higley and Frank Judson. Now, sometimes you carry assumptions along with you. I mean, you show up here at college, you take enough classes, you get a degree, and you're done. But there's a whole machine here that makes that all possible. And Dr. Bill Higley is our Vice President for Academics. And whether it's on campus or online, faculty, curriculum, all that sort of stuff, Dr. Higley is in charge of making all that work, getting the right people in place and leading the faculty in the right way. And he's also part of the cabinet, the people who work with me, to make the school run. And I depend on Dr. Higley for that. Frank was our Dean of Students until a few days ago. And last week I appointed Frank as our Executive Director of Student Services. Frank is now over both student development and over enrollment management. We'll work those two departments together and fit them in so they'll work right. So what we have this morning going on in chapel, the theme they have is at the heart of the school. And these are the two guys who have been tasked with making it work for you. So in a couple of minutes, once we get past the presentation, I want you to welcome Dr. Higley. And we got to get you a doctorate, Frank. Okay, and pre-Dr. Judson, we'll do this. Pre-Dr. Judson, we'll invite him up here. Bill.
All right, thank you, sir. So we each semester do some special awards on the academic side of things. And we take some time out in chapel to recognize some outstanding achievement by several of the people sitting around you. So today we're going to do that. We're going to honor our 4.0 people that get a 4.0 mug that looks just like this, one of the very special honors that we give out in the academic office here at Clark Summit University. So the ladies are up here beside me. Oh, wait, you guys got another job. I'll come to that in a minute. So let me read my script. During each semester, we like to recognize our full-time undergraduate students who have completed the previous semester with a 4.0 GPA. If you don't know what that is, come talk to me. We'll help you figure it out, all right? So if your name is on this list, it's going to show up on the screens here. We want to honor you today for the significant achievement and congratulate you on your academic success. And as a token of that effort, we have the mugs that will be available in our academic office up on the third floor. So you can come up there and either Kristen or Abby will get one of those for you and just pick that up and you'll have it. And what we want you to do is each time that you have a cup of coffee out of that mug, remember what you have accomplished and be motivated to get another one, get a whole set by the time you're done, and to think about what Christ has done in your life and what you are doing to serve Him even through your academic pursuits. So let's give a round of applause to these people that are listed up here. So also once a semester, we induct students into CSU's Honor Society, the Alpha Gamma Epsilon. And title is taken from the Greek alphabet, and those letters represent love, knowledge, and self-discipline. Students who are inducted into Alpha Gamma Epsilon must be degree-seeking students, and they've basically completed about half of their process here, 57 credits officially, and have a 3.4 or higher cumulative GPA. They also are approved by our faculty, and this is kind of the significant part of it. You are judged evaluated by your Christian character and the standards and how well you support the standards, ideals, and mission of Clark Summit University. So in recognition of this high academic achievement, in your integrity, your character, it's my pleasure to officially induce the following students into Alpha Gamma Epsilon. Now what we're going to do is call out your name. You're going to come up here. Are we going to run them across the stage? That's the idea. All right, I'll move back so they can do that. And then you'll receive your letter and a key from Kristen and Abby here. And then we're going to ask each recipient to just keep walking and go right out behind the curtain so that we can get a picture of you to put up on the website so that your parents can see that and your friends as well. So I'm going to move back. And so if I call your name, come up on this side, come across here, and we'll go there. And I'll just ask that you save your applause to the end, and we'll give everybody one recognition with that. So first of all, we have Andreas Bailey. You're so obedient. Erica Bob. Go ahead, you can clap. Just do it. Let's make it, this is a good thing, right? Caleb Brink. There you go. Thank you, Erica. Megan Carball. Rebecca Cook. Hugh Hayner. Where's Hugh? There he is. Noah Macy. Miriam Morley. Adam Morrill. Hannah Smith. Sabrina Stratton, and Sabrina is away today. She's doing her practicum. And Andres Tortola. Come on up, Andres. And those are our recipients this year. So give them one big round of applause. All right, so I just want to take care of a couple things first, though, before we get started. Number one, I want to squelch the rumor that I did not cancel chapel yesterday because I wasn't ready for it. Several of you have insinuated that, and I canceled chapel because I love and care about every one of you, and did not want you to walk out on the ice and slip and fall like I did when I walked out yesterday morning about 6 o'clock. So, second of all, public service reminder, today is Valentine's Day. Woo, yeah. Yeah, see, you're about as excited as I am about that. So if that means something to you, I just want to remind you that today is the day, all right? All right, so what we decided to do today is to talk to you a lot about why we're here. So we just honored these people that earned a 4.0 and were inducted into our honor society for their academic achievements. And certainly the academic side of it is hugely important. I mean, you are not here just because this is an extended camp kind of experience, right? You are here to get an education. You are here in different majors and different programs and things that you have chosen because you want to use that to help you in the rest of your life in whatever vocation God may have called you to. And some of you are still trying to figure that out, and that's okay. The average adult now will change their occupation about 6 times in their lifetime. I'm on number 3, I think, so I got a few more to go. And so what we're doing today, between Frank and myself, is we're going to try to talk to you a little bit about how we have conceived this process to be here at Clark Summit University. And we talk about it in these terms. Basically, when you're inside the classroom, as Dr. Lytle explained to you earlier, that's my responsibility. I'm over all that process and the different parts and elements that go into that. When you walk outside of that classroom, essentially I'm handing you off to Frank. And that's your CSU life experience. Now we know those two things go together hand in hand. And we don't really separate those out. They're not like you do this now, you do that then. It really happens all the time. It's all part of the process. But for organizational purposes and to help us, have clarity in trying to accomplish things, we separate it out like that. And so what we want to talk about today, is how those two things should work together and some of the ways and things that we've organized it in order to help that happen. Now you'll see up here on the slides, or on the screen, our motto, our mission. This is kind of a shortened version of it, Christ-centered, career-ready. A few years ago, Dr. Lytle commissioned several of us to kind of rework how we would state our CSU mission. We didn't change our mission. It's the same. It's the same it's been for 80-some years. But we changed the language to make it a little bit more appropriate and relevant to the day and age in which we live. So you see it up there on the screen. This is the first part of it, Christ-centered. So the catchphrase is Christ-centered, career-ready, and then we explain those two things. And I want to talk to you quickly about both of those. As an accredited Bible college, the Word of God is the foundation of our high-quality academic programs and welcoming student community. If you don't know this yet, I want you to understand this. We are a historic, traditional Bible college. Now, when we changed our name a few years ago, we did that for several reasons. We took that part of it out of the name, but we didn't take it out of who we are. We fit in a long line. There's actually 100 and some other schools like us around the country that are officially Bible colleges, and there's an aspect to that that is very unique from any other kind and part of higher education. And it's the fact that two things that we talk about here on this statement, that you earn a major in the Bible. Every graduate of our school will earn a Bible major. Every one of you is a double major. You have the Bible major and then whatever else you are majoring in, your other program. Some of you add some minors on top of that. But every one of you will graduate with a degree. So why do we do that? We do that because we as a school have a deep commitment to God and to His Word. And we want you to understand, and we do it very intentionally and very purposely, that we want you to understand that we supremely believe that God is in control of this world and that we have a mission to represent Him in this world. And in order to do that well, to do that really well, we want you to have a solid biblical foundation, what we call a biblical world and life view, which really gives you a foundation for anything else you'll study. Whether it be a ministry occupation you're looking at, something in the sciences, something in the arts, it doesn't matter. Every one of those is really founded on the fact that God created this world. He has a purpose for it. We are a part of that process. And that if we are going to truly be most effective in whatever vocation God has called us, we need to have that foundation of understanding His truth and what that means for how we live life, including whatever vocation He's called us into. So that is a part of our mission, and we don't apologize for that. We are very proud of that, and that is who we are, and we have not left that at all. We have daily chapel, which you guys experience here, and even though I try to cancel it once in a while, which is very much a part of your life. And then we have faculty and recognized national speakers are all part of that process. So it's academics and it's character development. And that's what we mean by Christ-centered. Now the other aspect to that statement, career ready. So from classroom academics to on-campus employment and extracurricular activities, Clark Summit University students benefit from a career focus. Grounded in the belief that all aspects of college life are training grounds for future careers, CSU emphasizes training in both practical academics and soft skill employers seek in their new hires. So what do we mean by that? The foundation that we give you in the classroom is simply that. It's a foundation. There is no way, and every one of us professors will tell you this, that we can give you everything that you need to know to go out and do that job that you're pursuing. We just can't do it. We don't have enough time. But what we want to give you is a theoretical foundation and the skills to become lifelong learners, to be able to take that knowledge and go out and do something with it. But it's more than just what you get in the classroom. It's more than head knowledge. It's practical experience. It's taking that knowledge and putting it into practice and doing something with it. Jesus condemned the Pharisees because they were full of knowledge. The Pharisees were brilliant people. They probably, make most of us look like fools in our understanding of God's Word. The problem was they didn't do anything with it. Knowledge is great, but it only puffs up if that's all we have. We need to take it and put it into practice and make it work in this world that God has called us and placed us into. And so that's why we go after all these other things. Now, what we're going to do is unpack that a little bit more deeply today, but I want to point something out. We're going to talk about our student employment process when Frank comes up here in a minute. But we have all these majors, and I think there's 30-some different ones that you can actually get a degree in, but they generally fall into these categories. Every one of those programs has some kind of practical training that's a part of the process. For example, our health science people, that's our physical therapy pre-athletic training. Those students will do 200 hours of observations and skill stuff. That is probably, at the time when we built it, I haven't evaluated it in the last few years, but at the time that we built it, as far as we understood, that was the highest amount of any student in the country at an undergraduate level that had to do that amount. And those people were in there thinking, no wonder it's so hard. No, we did that on purpose because we feel it's very important that you understand how it works. You don't just have the knowledge of it, you're actually figuring out how to put it into practice. All of our ministry programs have apprenticeships. We just added our new criminal justice program and built into that our practical courses where our people in that program have to go out and actually work and be a part of our campus security system. Our sports management people have 6 credits built into their schedule, their academic process of what we call apprenticeships, where they have to go and work side by side with people here on campus through our athletic department, our rec center, and other community things that we do in order to learn the skills of working in sports management. All of our education majors do basically a semester-long internship that we call student teaching, and several of them are out there right now, where they're learning how to be teachers. It's more than just what they got in the classroom. And I could go on and on. All of these programs have some aspect of that built into them, and that's very intentional. It's not accidental. So as we talk about being Christ-centered and career-ready, we want you to understand that outside the classroom experience is just as important as what you're getting in the classroom experience. And we have some very unique ways that we try to accomplish that. And so that's why I'm going to ask Frank to come on up at this point and join me. That's it. Give him a hand. Frank, you can touch that 4.0 mug, but you can't keep it because I know what your grade point average was. Frank was a student of mine a long time ago.
I never got one.
Yeah, I knew.
3.99.
That's what it added up to.
Funny guy.
All right, so Frank, you heard my little spiel there, talk about how we are taking the academics, trying to put it into practice to accomplish things. And one of the things I was on that slide, the career ready slide, was this term soft skills, which is hugely important in our thinking here, and I think we need to define that a little bit. You're the expert in that area, so why don't you tell me a little bit, tell the rest of the crowd here, what that is all about. What are soft skills?
So soft skills would be those skills that are more of the relational aspect with people in regard to work and coworkers and peers. It would be the responsibility aspect. What are employers looking for out of a employee that's really transferable and translatable to any job that you do? So I think in the classroom you learn a very specific set of skills for a very specific major and a very specific job. With the soft skills, we're training people to communicate effectively, understand how to organize and administrate. Think critically is one of our big ones, and then think critically and problem solve. So those types of things that they learn now and they get a jump on their experience out in the field.
Okay, so we have this mission, Christ-centered, career-ready, and you have uniquely crafted that into your area of responsibility, the Office of Student Development. Talk us through that. What does that look like for you folks, and how does what you're doing connect with our overall institutional mission?
So our OSD mission flows out of the institutional mission, and so if, in simple words, if we're preparing graduates to be Christ-centered, career-ready, the OSD aspect is doing that through a platform of experience-based learning opportunities. So we're really trying to craft everything we do as something that's hands-on and experience-based.
So what's that look like?
So that's all over the place. We're talking about certain growth objectives as an athlete, participating in sports. We're talking about growth objectives in student employment. We're talking about growth objectives in the residence hall program. All these places that OSD has their fingers on or touch are places that we're looking for and continuing to expand those experience-based learning opportunities. And I think we've come a long way. I don't think we're completely done yet. And that's the exciting part, is that we continue to hammer away at where's the next opportunity to make this a platform for experience-based learning.
All right, cool. So you just kind of listed all the things that are under your umbrella. So I want you to get very specific. Talk about, okay, let's start with, instead of giving you the softball question, I'll give you an easy one. So athletics, let's talk about that. Almost half our student body is some way or another involved in athletics. How does that help somebody be career ready?
So with our athletics program, I know that the coaches each have a plan for their students and what they want to accomplish. We're going to call that a learning objective. And so every coach has a learning objective or learning objectives. And so when you're playing sports, you understand team concept. You understand how to work with one another. You understand how to take directions. You understand strategy and game plan. You understand perseverance. And so those are all the things, as you participate as an athlete, dedication, that you are learning in this, we call a safe environment, and those things are translatable out into the work field.
All right, so one of the big tools that you have developed over the past few years, and when I say you, that's very intentional because Frank has been the heart of this entire process, which has been a really cool thing that the school has developed. The student employment platform and the process that you're taking our student employees through. Obviously we need students to do certain work around campus, but it's more than just getting the hallways cleaned. There's a whole process involved with that. So why don't you talk through that and how that fits?
Yeah, so back a few years ago when I came into the director of discipleship position, Roddy Hanna and I, Roddy, my friend and former boss, were talking about, hey, what is discipleship going to look like? And so many people were saying, hey, Frank, what kind of Bible studies are you going to run? What kind of things like that are you going to do? And I said, I'm not thinking in that direction. Roddy and I were thinking something much, much different. And so basically it came down to this. If we're going to employ students, why are we just giving them a paycheck? How come they can't walk away with so much more? Really, why can't we have this perspective that we are paying you to be discipled and mentored? And that's oftentimes the thing that I talk about when we do our interview process. And so we looked at what platform can we use for experience-based learning through student employment. And I had just come out of maintenance at the time and into OSD. And I knew that the maintenance director, facilities director, did not like to oversee custodial. And so I said, Roddy, I think we can use students to clean all the buildings, and I think that we can start to implement this concept of student employment and discipleship. And people were like, you guys are crazy, students can't do it, they're not responsible enough. And what we learned is this: students are responsible when you communicate the expectations and you hold them accountable. And so that's really where we're at. It started with custodial, and it has spread to rec center custodial, rec center membership services, security, facilities. I think you have some under your area that are practicing the same thing.
Yeah, a little bit different in our world, but the principles are the same, how it plays out. So talk us through then what, I know you have stages, you can have processes that are involved with that, and of course several of the people out here are already involved in the process, so they'll be familiar with it, but a lot are not. So what are some of those specific things that you're trying to, or how are you processing people through it, I guess is the way to say it.
So what we want to do is we want to emulate the real life, real world experience outside of the CSU experience. And so what we're attempting to do is make this process very similar to what you would experience when you would go out and get a job. And so we actually have an interview. In the interview are usually two people, two staff people, or a staff person and a senior student employer or employee. And we bring you right through that process to get you used to having to sit down and interview. And then we give
Let me ask, have you ever rejected somebody in that interview process?
In the process itself?
No names. Don't spoil it. But have you ever, has somebody not done well in that interview and you didn't hire them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
some
serious.
people have not interviewed well, Now, some people have not interviewed well, but we knew their character and we knew their references, and so we took a chance on them. Some people don't interview well, and depending on the position, we can't, it's not a fit. And oftentimes it's because they come in nervous, they don't know what to say. One of the things we say is, do you have any questions? And they're like, no.
Okay, so I come in, I'm that kid or person that comes in, I'm nervous, I don't do well, I stutter and everything, and I just totally blow the interview opportunity. Am I done?
No, you're not done.
Okay.
So one of the things I try to do is I try to connect with the student when they come and sit down. I try to help them to be comfortable. I try to let them know I'm not as scary as I look.
Not true.
And just try to connect. So what we do is we give them a job description. On the job description, there are the expectations of job performance. Then there are qualifications. And really, you know, when you go for a job outside of here, you have all these qualifications, a degree, experience, all these kind of things. We have qualifications. Most of them are flexible, like a willingness to. The number one thing is a willingness to be teachable. You know, if you're willing to be teachable, you can be part of the program. If you're not willing to be teachable, there's no sense in being in the program. And then when we hire them, we put them to work, we train them, and so there's also a training process, and so we call that training, shadowing, and so we're basically getting them to a point to where we can release them, certify them, whatever language we use in the various departments, and then they're on their own with working within the team and with supervisors. And halfway through the semester, we do an assessment. So just like you would have, I hope, in a regular employer setting, job setting, you actually get an assessment that's very conversational, and it allows us to say, hey, this is what you're doing well, and these are the things that you can work on.
So in that process, you've kind of talked us through it. You now have some students who are really over a team or a group of other students, right, that actually lead those things you just spoke about? Yeah. Okay. Talk to us about that. What does that look like for them?
So what we use is, we call it the multi-layer discipleship or multi-layer leadership development. And so what we're also doing while we're having students work, earn a paycheck, and develop them is we're also looking to develop leaders within that system. And so what we call is L1, L2, L3. And L1 is you come in and you do your job and you work a shift. And L2 is somebody who has an additional amount of responsibility to oversee maybe a shift or a particular night or a subgroup. L3 is somebody who oversees the student team. And all of those positions are all students. And so we're bringing people through and training them on certain skills on how to run a team, how to interact with a team, how to administrate, things like that. So it's all students.
Okay. So you won't have enough positions to get everybody to that L4 level, but you may still have students that are capable of doing that. They're just not in that role, but can exercise that in other ways as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so we're constantly looking to develop students to the next layer of responsibility.
I made a huge strategic mistake when I walked up here and I forgot my phone. Steph, you're the timekeeper for me. What time you got? 10:41. All right. So let's do this, Frank. Let's bring up our guest. And we have two students that we want to join us. So Derek and Ruth, come on up. Donald, next time, buddy. Okay, so we didn't want to just talk, as Frank and myself talking about these things. We wanted you to kind of hear from some of your peers about what this looks like and how it has played out in their lives. Now, we have two very different perspectives that we want to share with you today. Derek did an internship this summer at his church back home in DuBois, Pennsylvania, and Ruth is one of those examples that Frank just talked about who has moved up through that process and actually is a leader of other teams of students here on campus. So Frank, I guess, let me go to Derek first, and then we'll come back to Ruth, okay? So Derek, yours experience, a little bit different than what we were just talking about with Frank. It goes back to what I was mentioning earlier of how we have internship and experiential learning things built into all of our academic programs. So you are what major here at CSU? I know you've changed a few times, so tell me where you landed today.
I'm a sports and recreational ministry.
All right,
major.
so who's your advisor?
That would be you.
Okay, good. And so last year when we were doing our advising things, we talked a lot about, okay, you know, you're in this program, and, you know, what are you going to do with that? How do you want to do that? And we talked about some different internship possibilities. And you came to me to say, hey, could I do it back home at my church? Which I was very eager to help facilitate and make happen. So tell us about your church and why you wanted to do it back there.
So I had done an internship back home the year before. I worked in the youth group, which is not my major. It was at one point decided that I didn't want to be a youth pastor, and then the next summer I was a youth pastoral intern, so that was interesting. But I ended up building a lot of relationships with a lot of teenagers there. The majority of the ones that I built good relationships with were student athletes. So I was eager to go back home and use what I was learning in the sports and recreational ministries major courses, be able to use that with those students that were student athletes.
So tell us about a few of those. What are some examples of some things you did with them this past summer?
So probably the opportunity I enjoyed the most was being able to work with the soccer team of my former high school. And just, again, a lot of the students that I built relationships with were on the soccer team. And then also using what I know about the sport of soccer to be able to teach them more about it, and then also to be able to bond on a level that I think you can really only get through athletics.
You were also involved with some of the pastoral team, right? And doing some stuff with that. So that's a very different aspect than the stuff they were doing with the athletes and the kids that you were working with. Talk about that. What was that like, being involved in staff meetings and hearing the dialogue and the conversations that your pastors have about how they're ministering and doing what they're doing in your church? So
I wasn't looking forward to going to meetings at 6 a.m. On Thursdays, but I actually ended up really enjoying them because it's really interesting to see how intentional like pastoral staffs are in even the lives of like the students in the church. Like you wouldn't think like a lead pastor is that concerned with like specific youth in the church, but at least mine is, which was really cool. I also was very grateful for the opportunity that I had to be able to meet with the pastoral staff, because they were also interested in my growth as someone who was interested in, you know, maybe being a part of that role in a different church or in my home church or whatever. So they really did take time in those meetings not to just have me there and I'm just kind of in the corner listening, but I'm actually like engaging in conversations and they're guiding and directing me, as well as even listening to me, which was kind of cool. So
cool. Frank, I'm going to hand it off to you to interview Ruth and talk about her experiences.
Hi, Ruth.
Hi, Frank.
So, tell us, how'd you get to CSU?
All right, so I have family connections here. My brother came and graduated from CSU, and then I also came to play soccer for Coach Davis when he used to be the coach back a couple years ago. So.
All right, so when was your first connection with student employment? Do you remember?
So it was about 4 years ago, and I walked in to Frank's office inquiring about any job really, and it was during soccer season, and Frank and Jen actually told me that they weren't going to take my application because I was playing soccer, and they didn't know if I could do the hours with a sport, so they told me to check back in after season, and so I came back after the season, and I started working right before Christmas break.
All right, and so tell everybody, what did you start doing?
I worked custodial in Jackson Hall.
All right, so Ruth had a what we would call the L1 position, which would have been an entry level, go in, work a shift, and basically the responsibilities were do a good job and show up on time, right? Good. All right, so now tell us briefly about your little journey here over the past 4 years, from walking in after soccer season and looking for a paycheck to where are you at today? What do you do today? How'd you get there? And then lastly, in all of this, what do you walk away with? What have you learned?
Okay, so 4 years ago, walked in, got the entry level as an L1 for Jackson Custodial. The second semester after having that, I was shift leader, which is an L2 position. And then that following year, I became shift supervisor, which in our terms is L3. And then I was doing that for about a year. And then for the past 2 years, I've actually been doing logistic coordinator of custodial, which is just basically making sure that all of the different buildings are on the same schedules. I work with the interview process now. I do training. If any of the teachers or staff have an issue with something not getting cleaned or a clogged toilet that comes up, I'm one of the first people to know that then delegates it to our student supervisors in the custodial ranks at the different buildings. So I've been doing that. I am now an L4 and working closely with Frank and Katie Raven to work with that into our system of training the L3s so then they can become ready to eventually become L4s, hopefully. So that's what I've been doing, what I've been learning and being able to take from these past 4 years. I'm an athlete at heart, and so team concept was a big thing for me. Coming in, that's something I looked for in a job, and being able to take what I've learned out as a team and put that into a workplace has been my favorite part of working here at school. And then being able to take the L1, L2, L3 cycle and integrate it into the soccer team with Coach Slesser has been a work in progress over the past 2 years, and we're still working on it. It looks differently in that realm of soccer, but there's same concepts that I really enjoy putting in with the girls and working with them. A couple other things like dependability and reliability, getting to work with other people of different backgrounds, different cultures. I did summer crew for 2 years too, and so getting to be involved and grow with a little family has been a huge blessing to my life.
So the beauty about Ruth's story is that this little girl walks in my office. I have no idea who she is. She's playing soccer. I tell her to come back. There's no favoritism. She was proactive.
So you were one of those that got rejected right away, Ruth. So I'm sorry.
She wasn't rejected. Her schedule didn't fit, and I don't know if we even had an opening. But I said, come back, and she was proactive, which we look for. She came back and said, okay, soccer's done. Do you have something for me? We plugged her in. A year goes by, and our L3, who's a student, the team leader, says, I think I have my replacement next year. It's this Ruth Holloman. And I'm like, is that the little girl who plays soccer? So again, I relied on the student team leader, and I took his recommendation because I value that student team leader. And so he called the shots on it. So he trained his own replacement. And then here we are today, after essentially 2 straight years together. And so I think Ruth's story is wonderful because she comes in looking for a job, and she is now ready to go out into the world. And if you match up her resume against somebody else's resume of the same age and the same experience in terms of education, Ruth will get the job.
All right, very good. Thank you both. So I want to just leave with this. It's Christ-centered, career-ready. I want you both to reflect on, putting you on the spot now, all right? How has those two terms, those two aspects played out in your life, and especially in this, Derek, for you, for the internship, Ruth, for your, role here and your leadership responsibilities here. How has that been integrated into your entire educational process as both of you are kind of getting to that point where you're going to be launching out of here sometime soon? What does that look like in your life? What has it manifested and played out and equipped you? So Derek, go first. Derek's thinking.
I think for the first part of Christ-centered, first and foremost here, like the thing I value the most isn't my education here. It's the relationships I've built, the mentors that I've had, the things I've learned about myself in terms of who I am in Christ, how to share my faith with other people, how to help others grow, just like I was helped over the course of my 4 years here. So for the first part of Christ-centered, like, that's the major thing that I take away over my 4 years here, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. As far as career ready, I think part of me being career ready, to be honest, was changing majors 3 times, because I'm figuring out that I'm kind of like a jack of all trades and master of none. So, you know, I've learned to do a lot of different things. I've learned a lot of different takes on different situations. And I think that's going to help me in a job sense because I can do so much. And because I've learned so much about so many different things.
All right, thanks, Derek. Ruth?
So I would agree with Derek, just being the Christ-centered that we get from developing relationships with faculty and staff and with students, the different teams that I've been a part of in developing those relationships with people. The neat thing about working with Frank is as a supervisor, even as a L1, I got to be intentional, making relationships with other people, and then Frank or my supervisor were intentional in making a relationship with me and helping me through my personal, my emotional, my spiritual, all of that, and just really taking the time to show they cared, and that's a huge thing for me. It hasn't always been easy, and there's been rocky times, but it's really helped develop me and grow me into the person I am right now. And then for career readiness, I've been working on my resume and developing that and different things, and just being able to reflect back on all that I've learned and been able to put down on that resume that shows all of the different skills because of working with Frank and just getting to be involved in the different things, different camps and ministries that have gone on here at school. Those opportunities just have opened up my possibilities in so many different ways. So I don't really have a vision on where I'm going next, but I do have a lot of opportunities from what I've learned here that could really place me anywhere.
Absolutely. Frank, I'm going to let you have the last word. How would you like to conclude this day?
I think I would say that Christ-Centered Career Ready, because you are a student at CSU, I'm going to reiterate what I just touched on briefly here. Because of the experiences and the intentionality and the strategy that we have with Christ-Centered Career Ready, both in the academic realm and the experience-based realm, I think that when you guys graduate and you have a resume and you apply for a job, that you are more positioned to get that job than the other student who is the same age as you with the same educational background, because you have been prepared both Christ-centered and career ready.
All right. Thank you, Ruth and Derek. Thank you very much. Frank, thanks for sharing this day with me.
Thank you.